Gorka, can you please talk? Your microphone is on in the room.
Hi, this is Gorka speaking. Can you hear me?
Can you hear him?
Yeah,
Can I?
can you hear me?
Gorka, can you speak now?
Yes,
Sorry.
I can speak now, but
Yes,
I
I
would
can.
like you to tell me if you
Yes, I
can
can
hear
hear
me.
you.
Oh, that,
Yes, I
that's
can hear you.
great.
Do you have a webcam?
Yep, I have it.
Yes, I will give you privileges for your webcam. So now next to your name, there's a start my video button. Click on it. Perfect. We can see you perfectly, Gorka.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, so I will put you on the screen. Great. So whenever you want to speak, just unmute yourself. Now you are unmuted. Whenever you don't want to speak, mute yourself. Whenever you want to speak, unmute yourself. Do you have any slides or presentation you want to make?
No, no, I have not any presentation.
Okay, no problem. So I will leave you to the session. Your microphone is on all the time, and your video is on the screen. Okay?
Okay, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Bye-bye, thank you.
Gorka, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, great. And what about your video? You don't want to share it?
Yeah, but yes, hold on for a question. It is,
Okay.
yeah, I am smoking right now, so I wouldn't like just the people to watch me smoking because I'm at home. But when you tell me I can switch on the video, if you don't mind, okay?
Of course, no problem. I think that there are some technical problems. That's why I checked.
No, but I switch off consciously the video because I'm smoking.
Okay, that's great. Okay.
I can switch on when you want, but not when I'm smoking, if you don't mind. But I will
Of
do
course,
what you.
it's not problem. It's okay. It's okay. Don't worry. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
microphone, please.
Yes, I can hear you, of course.
Microphone.
Hola Gorka, ¿estás ahí?
Aquí estoy, Olga, ¿me escuchas?
Sí, te escucho bien, ¿cómo te va?
Oye, estupendamente, aquí estoy levantado, en pie de guerra.
Ay, qué bonito, gracias, te agradezco mucho.
Oye, como nada, por
¿Es muy
favor.
temprano para vos? Me debes estar odiando, ¿eh?
Ahora son las 6 de la mañana, me he levantado a las 5 menos cuarto. Bueno, eso es empezar el día con alegría. No hay ningún problema, Olga.
Bueno, escúchame, la idea es empezar en breves instantes, fundamentalmente para que compartamos cómo estas iniciativas sirven para hacer que los países en desarrollo participen más. ¿Cuál fue tu experiencia de haber participado en la escuela como alumno en Alemania y como docente en la de América Latina? ¿Y qué cosas te parece que se podrían hacer para aumentar la participación de países en desarrollo y para mejorar lo que se ha hecho? Un poco esa es la idea del diálogo. Va a ser...
Olga,
Sí.
No, te pregunto, hablaréis primero los que estáis allí. Te veo a ti por la cam, te veo a Wolfgang que está ahí andando, está tocando la mesa. Entonces primero hablaréis vosotros y después vamos nosotros los remotos, ¿no?
Remotos sos vos nada más, porque Iván no va a poder participar, me mandó un mail. Así que sos vos el único remoto, vamos a hablar nosotros, después yo te diría a vos y después dialogamos un poco.
Eso es, yo te voy a hacer una pequeña introducción y luego, si te parece breve, tú me puedes preguntar a mí, oye Gorka, ¿y qué piensas de esto y tal? Y bueno, yo te respondo y si te parece lo podemos hacer así. Y luego en cualquier momento, si te parece, puedo pedir para intervenir o lo que sea.
Escúchame, ¿en el de la tarde puedes estar?
Sí, también,
Bárbaro.
por favor, pero te tengo que mandar una presentación.
No necesariamente, porque parece que lo que pasa es que internet no anda, entonces yo tenía miedo de que la participación remota no anduviera, pero parece que son plataformas diferentes. Si me la querés mandar, mejor. Igual no tengo internet, así que no sé si la voy a recibir acá en la sala. Ahí sí tenemos más tiempo y es un poco más introspectivo, así que si ahí sí querés hacer una presentación más larga de lo tuyo, del idioma y todo eso, ahí tenemos un poco más de tiempo.
Y Olga, una cosa, ahí también va a participar Nacho, ¿verdad?
Sí, y por lo menos a mí me dijo que ya lo tenía agendado. El mail que yo mandé el otro día con las instrucciones no me lo contestó, pero... a mí me dijo que ya lo tenía agendado. El mail que yo mandé el otro día con las instrucciones no me lo contestó, pero...
Yo he dicho, oye, participamos en remoto. O sea que
fantástico. Bueno.
Tenemos la idea de que él hable primero y luego habla yo.
Fantástico. Listo.
Esa es la idea.
Bueno.
Fantástico. Os veo.
Listo. Bueno. ¿Os veis? A ver, ¿me veis? Bueno. Sí. ¿Os veis? A ver, ¿me veis? Bueno.
Sí, te veo con la manita.
No sé. Sí, bueno.
Sí, te veo con la manita.
No sé. Gorka, voy a tener que cortar porque hay cierta interferencia. Gorka, voy a tener que cortar porque hay cierta interferencia. Lo perdí porque hay cierta interferencia. Gorka, voy a tener que cortar porque hay cierta interferencia. Good morning. I need my headphones. Okay, let's go. It's channel 1?
Yes.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being with us this morning. I still don't get accustomed to this headphones things, but I will the day I leave. It's like the jet lag. Okay, thank you very much for being with us this morning. Thank you to our panelists and to our friends. We have remote panelists and we have remote participants as well. So I will start with thanking the people that is the panelists with us this morning. Thank you, Avery. Thank you for being with us. Thank you, Ricardo Pedraza, for being with us. Thank you, Bill Woodward, for being with us. Thank you, Wolfgang, the father of all the schools of internet governance. Eduardo Santoyo, Sarah Clayton from University of Leeds, and we have our friend Gorka Urueta in remote from Spain. Hola, Gorka. I don't know if you can hear us. Okay. Which is the purpose of this? It's a mixture of a meeting and a workshop. Why do I say this? Because some of us, we have been leading different capacity building programs, trying to teach about internet governance and trying to teach about some other things, perhaps more technical oriented or more regulation oriented, or trying to motivate some people from other regions in participating in this this is so strange, with or without, in this process. But I think it's nice to have you all here because we don't have many opportunities to share what we do, our experiences, and also I would like to think about how can we improve what we have been doing all these years. So I would like our panelists to share with us what they are leading. In the case of Wolfgang with the school in Europe. I will briefly talk about our experience in Latin America, and then our faculty members, and then Bill can tell us about what he's doing in Packet Clearinghouse. And then how can we engage more the developing countries in this process? How have we learned about these experiences, and how can we improve them? We have some experiences in Latin America in the engagement of the government. How have we been successful in bringing the governments to this process, especially governments that of regions that are so far away from the IGF? In this IGF especially, we were successful or not? How can we improve, and what have we learned from there? So I would like to start with Wolfgang. He's the father of all the schools and all the initiatives of training internet governance in the world, and I have learned a lot from him. And by the way, the idea of doing a training in Latin America came from my son, from his first school in 2007. So Wolfgang, I have been so privileged to participate in your programs through the years, and I have seen they have evolved, and I have seen that you also have made changes in the structure of the training program, and you have been improving it. So if you could share with us your six schools you have organized so far. The next one is the 7th. What have you learned especially in relation with involving developing economies, developing representatives in the schools? Have you seen them participating afterwards in the IGF and in the internet governance processes? And how did you make those changes in the structure of the course, and how you think we could improve from your experience other things that we are doing?
Thank you, Olga, and thank you also for the nice introduction and the nice words. I think the idea to have training programs goes back to the United Nations Working Group on Internet Governance, where a number of members of the working group, including Bill Twigg, Avri, Raul Echeverria, Carlos, and a lot of others, who represented the civil society and the academic world, realized that in particular among governmental representatives, but also among others, there is not enough knowledge available, and this is the result of a situation that you cannot study internet governance how you can study law or political science or economics. So there is no course and no universities where you can say, I'm studying internet governance, and then I have a knowledge about all this. The problem, there is an explanation for this, because universities' academic courses are built around disciplines, traditional disciplines, and the internet, and in particular internet governance, is a multidisciplinary issue. So that means it's a little bit law, a little bit political science, a little bit economics, a little bit informatics. So it's rather difficult, you know, to develop a curriculum which covers all these aspects. And so by recognizing this gap, a group of people then decided after the WCAG in 2006, you know, to build an own program. So this was the starting point for this. And we did a pilot project in Germany. And this was the starting point. And Olga was involved in this from the very early beginning because we said, okay, it needs a strong development dimension. And more or less we realized also that the world has two summers, you know, one in the north and one in the south. So we said, why not to have two summer schools? You know, one summer school in the north, in the European region, and the other one in the south, as also a pilot project in Latin America. What we have learned in the years since 2005-06 is that this curriculum has to be built around the needs of the fellows. So it makes no sense to define, you know, a fixed program where you define individual lectures and then say, okay, you know, 5-6 points, and then you just transfer this knowledge from this program to fellows. So our slogan is learning in a multi-stakeholder environment. Our fellows are coming from different backgrounds. So people who are entered the field of internet governance have already an own histories. They have studied some things, they have some practical experiences in the industry or in governments or in a civil society organization, and they need to fill some gaps. And you have to discover this and then to build the program around these special needs. So that means the development of the curriculum, what you have to teach, you know, should be done in a bottom-up way by first identifying the needs of the fellows. And the second, what we have learned is you have to be rather dynamic. Internet and internet governance is a very dynamic field. The issues of today are different from the issues in 2005 or as the issues has been in 1995. So that means you have to be very open. So that means each course looks different. You have to look at what are the big issues in the last year, so that you can adjust to it. So we added 2 or 3 years ago, you know, a lecture on Internet of Things and cloud computing, which was not an issue in Tunis in 2005. So, and we see, okay, what are the next big stories? And then we have to find a way how to include this subject into the program. And the third conclusion, what we have learned is you have to do it very practical. A school or an academy or whatever looks very theoretical, and then you speak about the big theories. I think the big theories are needed. Nothing is, by the way, more practical than a good theory. That means you should have a certain theoretical foundation for your, if you are studying or try to get more familiar with a certain issue. But this has to be done in a way that you come rather quickly to the real practical problems, either in policy or in technology or in the business. And so what we have done to accommodate this is that we were very careful in selecting the faculty members. Normally in a summer school you have 2 or 3 professors who are teaching 6 or 8 hours per day for a group of 20 or 30 students. What we have now nearly 20 or more faculty members, because we have identified for the various issues, then lecturers who are doing the job. We have added 2 or 3 years ago a whole morning the so-called business dimension of internet governance. And we have asked, people representing this business. It's now Teresa Swinehart from AT&T, from Verizon. It's Jeff Brickman from AT&T, and Tom Spiller from Walt Disney Corporation. That means big corporations, big names who are doing the job. They come as faculty members and lecture. This raises the credibility of the presentation. Certainly we can find an economic professor who can speak about the economics of internet governance. But to have the people who are doing the job on the ground as faculty members is a very important point, and this raises the credibility, because then people have a chance, or understand, okay, this is what they do in the day-to-day operations, and we provide an environment where after the lecture you can have a lot of interactive discussion with them. So it's more or less a peer-to-peer discussion. It's, if you are in the room, you do not see differences between fellows and faculty members. And this is the final conclusion. If you start a course in internet governance, it has to be like the network. It has to be peer-to-peer, end-to-end, very interactive. So it's not preaching. It's not, that, some experienced people give a lecture to unexperienced people. There's a lot of knowledge in the fellows. There's a lot of knowledge in the room, and you have to create enough spaces so that this knowledge, can be in a peer-to-peer communication transferred, from A to B. So that means you provide a space for interactive communication and interactive learning. So this is really a new way. This is not the typical university-like or the academic-like teaching where experienced people tell to, give a 2-hour lecture to other people. So we have also this style because, as I said, this is needed, but this is not the whole story. So these were my 4 lessons learned so far from the summer school since 2005. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Wolfgang. Bill, first I want to thank all the information that Packet Clearinghouse has. I had just finished a paper for the University of Buenos Aires about internet exchange points in Latin America, and really all the information that I found in the webpage and all your research papers have been really extremely useful for us. As you know, there are several more internet exchange points in our region that has English is not good this morning. Enhance the access and lowered price especially for those areas that are more difficult to connect, like in the interior of the countries in Latin America. So thank you very much for that, and I think you do a great job. Perhaps you could share with us your teaching experience and the teaching programs that you have, and especially the focus that you give and how you have learned in including developing economies and developing countries into the process. Thank you. And thank you very much for being with us. I know you're very busy this week.
Thank you very much for the gracious introduction. Packet Clearinghouse is an operational organization much more than it is an educational or academic or research organization, although we have components of all of that. Everything else that we do other than operations tends to be in some way a byproduct of the operational work. So our workshops, we tend to teach between 70 and 100 workshops each year, and those are almost all aimed at solving some kind of operational problem, however indirectly. A lot of those are about internet governance, and it would seem at first that there wasn't a direct connection between operations and governance, but in fact, of course, you can't operate something if the governance doesn't fit with what's needed. So, I sometimes, when I'm talking with network operators and, try and explain, essentially we have 4 main areas of work. We support internet exchange points and peering and traffic exchange. We support the core of the domain name system. We support regulatory and policy work, and we support security coordination. And so the regulatory and policy part, you know, when I get to that part, when I'm explaining this to operations folks, they often say, well, what does that mean, right? And my shorthand for that is explaining to governments why voice over IP should not be a crime. And, you know, that really does kind of summarize it in a nutshell, right? There are a lot of things that internet consumers, the users, want to do, that internet service providers would like to be able to provide, yet for some reason there is policy that forbids it, or there is policy that's dubious of it, or there's policy that needs to be changed before it will either be possible or legal or efficient or productive. And so a good part of what we do is not educating, you know, CERT operators on how to, you know, work with law enforcement to take down a DDoS attack, or IXP operators on how to, you know, keep port stability on their switches, but is with government people on how it is that the internet actually works, what it is that will benefit them and their government about how the internet actually works, and why it is that they don't need to redesign the internet for us from scratch in order to fit their preconceptions. And so the tension that I usually find is between, on the one hand, the desire for the sort of safety of the status quo, and on the other hand, the desire for the advantages of development, right? And at some level, most people understand that they can't exactly have both, right? That if they want new technology and the benefits of new technology and modernity, that they have to give up some of the things that they're used to that aren't necessarily better, they're just safe and convenient, and they've become a bit habituated to. And the big one there is revenue from voice minutes termination coming in through a government-owned incumbent phone company. And that is almost always the single biggest obstacle that we face, is you know, the tension between the short-term needs of an incumbent phone company that wants to preserve its business model versus the entire rest of the internet industry that would like to be able to move packets quickly and cheaply across, you know, fiber infrastructure that anybody who wants to can, you know, put in the street. And they're very, very different models. And so a huge amount of our educational work goes at sort of the ministerial and regulator level, helping those people understand, number one, the trade-offs and what they get back from their trade-off, right? If they give up the safety of that voice minutes termination revenue, how can they expect to benefit in turn? Like, why will it be better after that? And well, I don't remember where I was going. I was going to say something else about that, but I mean, that's really the big one. I was joking with a friend last night. We were talking about what the educational needs address and what the environment is, and we were joking that everybody in this industry can be categorized as naive, apathetic, or corrupt. That and I, of course, am in the apathetic category, right? So apathetic is, you know what you're talking about, and you're well-intentioned, but you're exhausted and cynical, right? The naive are the young kids who haven't yet been around the block, don't yet know why everything is going to fail. They have lots of energy, yeah. And they're thirsty for knowledge, right? And the corrupt are the people who really don't care about any of that. Doesn't matter whether they know how things work or not, but you know, they have their palm out and they're not going to let anything happen unless they get paid. And unfortunately, you know, the whole sort of educational aspect of the internet is mostly the sort of cynical and apathetic people trying to convey knowledge to the naive people before they also become exhausted. So I'm sorry, that's the the cynical and apathetic way of describing the situation, but I'm sure there's a little bit of truth to it that many of you will recognize. So I don't know. I don't have any really prepared remarks, and I think you know, I'm very happy to answer questions about what we do and how we do it. But I think I'll turn the table back to you.
Thank you very much. It was very nice talk. And one following up questions to your comments about all these workshops that you organize. That how do you feel the outcome? Do you feel more involvement of developing economies, this regulators that you talk to about the minutes of the telephone companies and all that? Do you think that it's improvement? Do you think there is a good outcome? How do you feel?
So, let me just explain a little bit about how we do our work. So, mostly what we do is very general workshops in conjunction with things like network operators group meetings, like SANOG and OSNOG and MENOG and NANOG, right? So the North American Network Operators Group meeting, the South Asian Network Operators Group meeting, the Australian Network Operators Group, so forth. So these are pre-existing conferences that occur, you know, once or twice or three times a year, where people come in from all over the region and may not yet know exactly what it is that they want to learn. So we'll teach a workshop in conjunction with that that's clearly titled, right? It says something like, you know, how to regulate for fast internet development, or how to operate a country code top-level domain and secure it using DNSSEC, or how to configure BGP peering at an internet exchange point. So a title that is very clear, that explains what it is that you'll learn. And we get people from many different countries in those workshops. And then typically what will happen is a couple of months later, we'll get a call back from someone who had been in that workshop, and, well, from many of the people in the workshop, saying, okay, I understood the general information. Could you come and do a workshop here in our country addressing our specific situation? And so then we'll go and we'll do that. And then often there's a series of follow-ons, you know, over the course of months or years, where we go back and we teach at a slightly more detailed level, addressing, you know, the state of development in that place at that time, which moves forward, you know, moves on. So these things build from the sort of basic and general to the very, very specific and tailored over time. And where that's easiest to track the progress is with internet exchange points, which is what we've been doing workshops on for the longest period of time, for 20 years now. And, you know, so the ITU is running around the Middle East telling people that they can build internet exchange points for as little as $20 million, and that they can expect to complete one in 10 years. We've been through this 150 times, and, you know, there's a bell curve, but the center of the bell curve is 4 visits, 8 months, $40,000, right? So 4 visits, 4 workshops over 8 months, concluding in the construction of an operating internet exchange point that's passing bits and generating revenue for a country that was previously, you know, exported capital buying internet bandwidth from another country, right? That's a measurable success, and it's one that you can put a dollar figure on, and it creates a nucleus of operations people who are working with each other to solve not only operational problems, but regulatory and business problems. And that in turn forms a community that will go on to have its own operational meetings and, you know, knowledge development and knowledge transfer and so forth. So that's really what we aim to have happen, and it's happened many times, and it's not that difficult. So
thank you, very interesting. A little bit of our experience in Latin America is, after being in MySem for the first time, we had that idea of somehow doing the same in the region. But the region has another problem. Our region is not so well represented in this fora, in ICANN or in Internet Governance Forum. Of course, every Internet Governance Forum is being organized a little bit far away, a little bit more far away than the year before, and next one will be a little bit more complicated to reach there in Bali for Latin Americans, but that's something that may be related with the countries that proposed being a host. But apart from that, I can just rotate among other countries, and also the Latin American community is not so much involved in those spaces of debate and participation. So we thought that we could create a space for the locals to understand what is it about internet governance, what implications has into the global policy for internet, for access, for knowledge, the exchange. So we started with the school in 2009 in Buenos Aires, and we thought that a good idea could be rotate among countries. So we started in Buenos Aires, then we went to Sao Paulo in 2010, Mexico in 2011, and this year we had a very nice school in Bogota in Colombia, and next will be in Panama. Number of students have been growing steadily from 26 fellows in Buenos Aires up to 120 in Colombia this year. The nice thing about Colombia this year is that the government got interested in the program, and they wanted to show and explain to the students their policies towards internet inclusion and the lowering the digital divide, and they invited representatives from all the small municipalities and big municipalities in the whole Colombia. So we had 80 students that were sponsored by the government to attend the program. And this year in the Toronto meeting, there was a GAC representative in ICANN, so from Colombia. So and he was a student of the school. So slowly but surely, we are capturing more people to get involved in these processes. So. I would like to ask Abrid. She has been present in all the schools all over. Is that right? In Latin America, she has been, luckily, we have been privileged to have her as a faculty member in Buenos Aires, Sao Paulo, Mexico, Colombia, and hope we will have you in Panama. Great. And she has been also in Egypt, also in Meissen all the years. So what's your feeling about the process, and how did you feel about this Colombia involvement from the government? I mean, did you feel, knowing the other schools that were more, with not such a presence from the government, and this was different, you think it was good? How do you felt being a faculty member in all the process about that, and you think this has an impact or not into the local community?
Okay, it's going to take me a little bit to get there. Simply because I was trying to figure out what I was going to say and listening to the things that others were said. First of all, there's sort of the challenge that was just put: am I naive? Am I apathetic? Or am I corrupt? And as soon as I heard that, I started to say, oh dear, which am I? And I decided that, gee, in some ways I must be a little bit of each, because how could I not? I'm always multi-denominational. And as somebody that came out of being a technologist and spent a quarter of a century being a technologist before I even knew that there was such a thing as internet governance, mostly in routing and protocol design, and knowing that when I did protocol design, I always stole from how people behaved, because I would look at how someone said hello and someone said hello back and stuff and say, oh, good, I could use that. I always felt, so I thought I knew what I was doing. And I'm definitely cynical. Anybody that knows me knows that cynicism is always an undercurrent. But the schools actually help me be naive too. And one of the things that happens in the schools is every time I go, I learn something new. One of the things that I try to do in the schools, and this is where I'll get to the government at some point, is that I've really tried to figure out how to explain internet technology in a language other than internet technology. How to explain what the internet is. Because one of the things I've always despaired of and been very cynical about is the fact that all these people were making policy for the internet that knew absolutely nothing about what they were talking about. And but to try and explain to them bit bytes and protocol structures would have had me working for days, and they would still know nothing about the internet. So I've always tried to do it in terms of languages and metaphors and such that were native to them. So we have lawyers, we have social scientists, we have you know, people who are junior in government who come to these, who speak in certain languages. And from the questions they ask, from the ways in which they try to understand, each year I find myself learning a little bit more about how one can explain the internet and how it works in a language, in metaphors, in stories that make sense to them. And the two classes that I normally teach, sometimes more than others, I teach one that is about internet technology, protocols, and standards. And I teach another one in terms of the internet and human rights issues. And actually, I have learned a lot. Each time I have to prepare these courses and I look at who I'm going to be talking to, I've learned a lot that has helped me develop the whole stream of thought about, for example, the internet technology and human rights and the tight relationship between the two, which is something that I'd never even given a thought to before I started teaching these. So, and also, you know, you're figuring out, well, okay, I've talked about the naivete and I've talked about the apathy. What about the corruption? And with the summer school, if they pay for me to go to all these new places, you know, I'm really happy to go. All these places I would never be, and someone says, come here, we'll pay your way down, you know, a little under it. Yeah. So there's a little bit of corruption in there, you know. I've got to get my mark of countries I've visited above 28%, because that's just shameful. So, but kidding aside, now in terms of Bogota, at first, I was sort of put off by the, you know, the day in the middle that it was just all this government stuff. And what was all this government stuff happening? And what did this have to do? But then after talking to those students, hearing the concerns they had about local life and how did any of this stuff fit with their local life, with what they had to do and such, and the questions they asked me, and especially very interesting ones. I'm fairly outspoken in my disbelief of V6. I've gotten better over the years. But I would say things like that. And they would all come with really good questions about what was the matter with me. And why didn't I understand how important this was to them and their development because of A, B, C, D. That actually I found that it was actually very good, and I think that in some ways that really spreading out, that reaching to people in localities who have to really live with how do they bring internet to their local community, to people that have lives that are so divorced from what I think of as internet technology, and yet they're totally bound up in it, was actually a very good thing, and it educated me further. So in a sense, I went from being extremely skeptical about it to and wanting to run away because it was all these people from governments, and I'm a little bit of a not government person, and actually being quite excited about it by the end because they were understanding, they were caring, they were naive, and naivete is great because you can always sort of grab some of it for yourself, and you can use naivete to sort of give you energy to sort of make it through another day of skepticism. You know, it's sort of, where do you get your energy if you're skeptical? You get it from the naive. And so I really like the metaphor that you've given me. It's wonderful. I'll keep playing with it more and more. Probably write a paper on it someday. And so I actually think it's good. I think the way, you know, as Wolfgang was saying, that the school is constantly adapting itself to the environment that it's going in, that adaptation sort of changes, you know, the the school itself for the next time. So you really do have that learning, not only by the people that come, but that learning by those of us that are the core faculty of it is actually a very good thing. And so I like the fact that it changes. And between the two schools, between the Meissen, where we go to this wonderful, seminary, and we always stay in the same environment, and it's a wonderful environment, and we have a very intense sort of collegial, almost, the seminary of the internet type of environment is really good for getting into depth, getting into things. People come from all over, and it has a very different feel than the dynamic of the ones in Latin America that are much more about where we're going, and much more are shaped by where we're going. So between the two of them, again, feeding my corruption, which is, how am I going to learn more? Because if I'm not learning more, why do I want to do this? It really is a wonderful mixture between the two.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I like the metaphor very much. I will use as well, if you allow us. Okay, we have other faculty members here as panelists. I see Ricardo, Pedro, and Eduardo. Eduardo is kind of serious this morning. Yeah, you're a serious man, I know. So I would like your impressions about what was your experience being part of the faculty of the South School of Internet Governance, and what would you suggest about how can we improve the involvement of, in general, the local community and also the governments? We had this nice experience with the government of Colombia. They were nice in bringing all these people from the interior of Colombia into a big group of people in Bogota this year. And I'm sure that this will have an impact in their knowledge about the internet governance and the relevance of the policy development and involvement of developing economies. But what was your feeling about this participation, and what would you suggest to improve them? I would start with Ricardo. Ricardo is an interest. He has an interesting profile. He doesn't have a mic, so can we have a mic for Ricardo? And in the meantime, Ricardo works for a company based in the United States, but he's Colombian. So he's part of the two words, the word of developing economies and the developed economies. And also your first school was in Sao Paulo, right? And then you were present in Mexico, and in this year is in Bogota. And you are from Colombia. So perhaps you could give us your impressions in the evolution of the three schools that you're involved in, and how could we perhaps improve the program, or if you have any suggestions about that.
Thank you very much, Olga. In fact, I've been honored to be part of this initiative in this region. And I will start by saying our company, as Olga mentioned, it's a private company that is really committed to preach about the multi-stakeholder value for aborting all the internet governance issues. So the South Summer School, or the summer schools in Latin America, have been an excellent opportunity to share this. And I would say, in terms of the evolution, I've been experiencing the same kind of excitement as I've mentioned before, to reach different people from different perspectives with different needs. That's something that always encouraged me to try to listen more and to try to learn that, there's, even if we are in the same region, there are different complete needs. Sometimes when you talk about the region, you try to say like the same situation, to have like patterns, and the more you get into deep, try to understand the need, you see they're really different from each other, even if we speak sometimes the same language or just a close language. So that's something that makes me be always open to listen. Regarding you also mentioned the involvement of the government on the late experience. I would say that it would be interesting not only to continue that, but maybe next time also to partner with, how about to include a university that, as Wolfman said, sometimes they have like standard disciplines, and at some level be interested to partner with a local university who has some interest, I don't know, from the political science perspective, from the law science perspective, or the engineering, and try to partner with them, and the same we did with the local government. That would be interesting, and I will add that it will be interesting also to include at some point in time the local chamber of commerce. It's something that maybe hasn't been explored because we assume in some way that the private sector has to know by default. And I don't think that's the case because the private sector sometimes has more concerns about the services they are providing and a short view of what they're seeing from the internet. So it will be interesting also to partner with a local chamber of commerce. That will be also my suggestion. And finally, I will say that other improvement that can be brought to this initiative will be the use of remote participation, more than remote participation, remote education. Our company has, as I mentioned, not only participate, but also sponsors other initiatives on internet governance in different regions of the world, and trying to strengthen our part in developing economies. And from these other initiatives that are mostly have a different format of models on e-education. And when you review the outcomes from this format, the numbers are completely different from online presence, that's for sure. It's a model that is interesting when you complement with some face-to-face meetings. So I'm a strong believer, and I used to be at a university, so strong believer of that. Could be also some interested avenue to explore.
Thank you, Ricardo. Just following up on your comment, in Colombia we had remote not participation, but people could participate. We could follow the meeting remotely, and there were several. So our plan for Panama is to have remote participation and organize some hubs, spontaneous hubs that people can organize in their places. So we will open a call for remote hubs perhaps very soon, once we already have prepared a group of students. But thank you very much for that suggestion. I think it's important. And the first school was organized, our local partner was a university where I teach, which is the ITBA. It's a school of engineering in Argentina. This was our first host. Was very small at that time, but they were so kind to be our host. And in Mexico, we did partner with the local ISP chamber. But we should go a little bit further, perhaps, like Wolfgang did with the business, more involvement from business. Thank you very much, Ricardo. Pedro, you were present. Remote?
Sorry, we have remote question.
Okay, we have a remote question. Go ahead. Yeah, why not? And we have a remote panelist. Gorka is waiting patiently there, but your time will come.
There is question to Olga Cavalli from Daco Gabriel from ISOC Cameron Hub. Yeah, I'm really impressed by the success of the Latin school. Congratulations for this great achievement. Can you please share with us the difficulties to set up the faculty and how you face it? Because I know the African faculty of IG since many years try to be set up. And at some level it would be interesting to partner with a local university which has some interest from the political science perspective or engineering and try to connect with them. And the same with it with the local government. That would be interesting. Thank you.
I think it's more a question to Wolfgang than for me. There were some initiatives in Africa, Wolfgang. We will remember one not nice experience about a web page that appeared a while, but
yeah, we had a summer school according to the Meissen model in Cairo in 2009. This was at the eve of the Sharm el-Sheikh IGF and was connected to the IGF, and we could do it because the Egyptian government, in particular the National Telecommunication Authority, was kindly enough to provide the support for this. And the idea was to have on a regular basis a similar event like in Latin America, also in Africa. But the question is, you know, how to get the funding for such an event. So we, since 2010, we have discussed with various groups, with NEPAD, with universities in South Africa, with Kenya, with some other places, you know, how to build one. And I hope that this IGF and the discussion around education and capacity building will boost this and will bring the Africans closer together so that they can develop their own program. I'm very optimistic that also ICANN will jump into this. They have now a special strategy for Africa. Tarek Kamel, the former Minister of Communication from Egypt, who was responsible when we had the summer school in Cairo, is now the special advisor for Africa in ICANN. And so the hope is that in 2013 or 14 we can have such a similar event like in Latin America, also for Africa. To build the faculty, to answer very concrete to the question, it depends certainly from the program, but I'm always in favor that the people from the region teach the people who are there. So that means if it comes to very concrete questions which has to be included into the program, like the management of a top-level domain or the allocation of IP addresses and management of IP addresses, question of security issues in the region, then you have enough expertise now in the region. While we invite, if we talk about IP address management in Meissen in Europe, certainly the guy who comes from RIPE NCC. So in Africa they have Afrinic. We invite a faculty member to teach about CCTLD management from Europe, but you have a lot of good CCTLD manager from Africa you can invite. We invite a GAC member from Europe or the European Union. So in Africa you can invite the GAC member from one of the African states or from the African Union. So to discuss the same, you know, with civil society organizations. So you can build it around the constituencies of ICANNs. You have the African Regional at Large organization. You have an African top-level domain organization. You have a lot of these regional organizations. And if you look around these people there, they have the knowledge, they have the experiences. They are the right members of the faculty for a regional thing, and then you can mix it up and bring 2 or 3 people from around the globe, the first-class experts, you know, as additional faculty member. But a regional summer school should not be dominated by speakers from the north, from the US, from Europe or elsewhere. So if you have them as a dessert, as an extra bonus, this is fine. But it should be, the teaching should be very close to the local needs. And the same could happen in Asia, so we failed to have a project in Asia. I think the .Asia did something in Hong Kong 2 or 3 years ago. They have now a youth camp which is a different type of teaching, and so there are growing needs for this. And so but the initiative should come from the ground. It is a bottom-up project and should not be centralized in the hand of a big, dominator who would then try to influence the programs. It has to be grown bottom-up, how the internet is and how internet governance is. Thank you.
Thank you, Wolfgang, and thank you for the question from remote, from our friends from ISOC Cameroon. And by the way, let me tell you that this workshop is also organized by the ISOC Argentina chapter, where me and Adrian are members of the board. Pedro, I'm so sorry for interrupting you, but the question was interesting. Pedro, you were part of the school several times. You're a friend of us. You're Uruguayan living in Argentina. Uruguay and Argentina are two brother and países hermanos. How do you say that in English? Países hermanos. You cannot say that in English exactly with the same meaning.
Brother in countries.
Brother countries. So, how do you say that?
Countrymen.
Country?
Countrymen.
Countrymen? Okay, we are countrymen. So, welcome to the workshop. What's your impression about the school? How could we improve it? We were talking yesterday with some wine in the cocktail, and we were talking about how few we are from the region in here. It's a long way from home, but at the same time, governments should perhaps pay more attention to this process. How do you feel about that? Because you visit a lot the region, and you also work for a global company like Google.
Well, first of all, thank you for the school. The school has been great for the region, has been great for those of us that has been very engaged on internet governance and try to, in some way, market internet governance as a very important issue to follow, not only within our respective companies, but also within the governments and the different stakeholders. It is clear that once someone has a contact with the internet governance forums, then they want to continue being engaged. But the difficult part is to explain what the internet governance forum is and why it's so important. And sometimes the best way to do it is being here. But my concern has to do with the lack of representation from governments of Latin America. We have very few government representatives in this edition. We had a lot registered, but at the end, at last minute, many delegations canceled. And I think that that has to do in part because they might not have enough information about how important this is. And I think that we need to think about how we can also put this closer to some government, and I think that the school could be a good way to do this. We were discussing about maybe having introductory sessions, small sessions that are going to be like preparatory or parallel to the school, so we can introduce this to government delegations. And I think that the different members of the faculty and the organizers, we can leverage on our contacts within the region in order to help to do this kind of interactions. Another thing that I'm doing a lot is now in every conference, when I present my bio, I always include that I'm a faculty of the South School of Internet Governance. And this helps a lot because people start to ask, what is that about? And I think that this is also another way to help to market the school, to help and help the IGF itself. I think that because I have to travel a lot, sometimes I'm not able to participate in person in the South School, so I'm a user of the remote tools, and I think that we need to work a little bit more on that. Maybe, and this is something that the different sponsors and private companies can help, providing tools, because I think that the school right now got a scale that needs more professional solutions for remote participation. At the beginning, we were fine using Skype or using other tools, but I think that now we need to think about more professional solutions. So the experience is, I know that it's not the same to be in person, because you benefited from different ways to interacting with all the people and the rest of the faculty. This is something that I miss a lot when I'm not able to participate on site, because I miss my part of education. I miss the part where I learn from the rest. So this is but at least try to find solutions. And I think that I see that we have now a new organizer, SECAT. I don't know if they're going to provide some distant learning services for the next event. So that is a good news. And I think that this is mainly my observations around the school. I think that the school is getting now within the Internet Governance Forums, everybody knows about the school. I think that you, Wolfgang and Olga and Adrian did a great job on letting all the people know about it. So now I think the next phase is make it known worldwide.
Thank you, Pedro. Thank you very much. And yes, the remote participation from panelists has been random good. In Colombia, Robert Pepper, it was okay. I mean, it was very well, and he could even get question and answers from the floor, but some others didn't. But the connectivity in the venue was very good. So sometimes it's the end-to-end issue. It's not only that you have the local infrastructure, but we can learn, of course, perhaps from IGF, remote participation experts, and we can share some ideas with them. Before introducing our two other panelists, Sara and Eduardo, I would like to give the floor to Gorka, who has been very early awake in Spain. Can we? Hola. Okay. Gorka has been listening to us, and Gorka was a student in Meissen in like 2 or 3 years ago. This is where we met him, and then we interact with him. He has a very interesting role in the University of País Vasco in Spain, in the north of Spain, and also we got engaged in some exchange of information about usage of our language in the internet apart from English, which is one of the things that I investigate, use of Spanish, which is my mother tongue, in the internet, and he has some interesting experiences about his own language in his region. So Gorka, are you there? Gorka. Gorka, yeah. Gorka, yeah. No nos ve. Gorka, yeah. No nos ve. Gorka, yeah. Se repite infinitamente. We cannot hear you. I mean, I cannot hear you. Can you hear him? I cannot hear you. I mean,
sorry, we have some technical problems and we are solving it. It's up to you. You want to wait or? Okay.
okay, so Gorka is talking alone, poor Gorka. So can we fix that or? Okay. While we wait for the audio from Gorka, I'm so sorry for him because it's too early in Spain. Eduardo, our friend from .co, good friend from Colombia, good friend. Why do I hear myself all the time? What is that? It's like repeating myself. A good friend from the region of all of us. What has been your impression about the school? And you participated in Colombia and in Mexico, right? What's your impression? Do you think we are doing an impact in the developing countries of the region? How could we improve it? And what's your impression about it? How could we improve it? And what's your impression about it? How could we improve it? And what's your impression about it? How could we improve it? And what's your impression about it? How could we improve it? And what's your
Hello. Okay, thank you, Olga. Thank you all for having me here talking about this Internet Governance School. Okay, first of all, I'm going to talk about my experience, and after that, I'm going to have probably some approach about the work that we have been done in Colombia, trying to get more people involved in all of these things about the internet, more than the internet, about the governance process. My experience was very good. As Abby said, we learned a lot from the people. The people are really rich, and Wolfgang also mentioned that they had a lot of knowledge that we can take advantage of that. And for me in particular, was really nice, and I'm really happy and feel very honored to be participant as a faculty, trying to say and trying to explain which are the different models as the CCTLDs could work in order to deploy their responsibilities within the local community, within the global community, and trying to get working this domain name system within the internet. That's the thing that I really do with them. And I also am doing that in many places in Colombia. I'm attending to many summer universities who invite me to talk about what is a domain name system, how it works, which is the meaning of the city, what is a country code, what is a generic domain name, for what reason it exists, and what is the functionalities. It's very interesting, and I guess that every single thing that we do, trying to teach more people about this, is very important, because they have a lot of knowledge on their own concerns and their own specialities, but probably most of the people don't know nothing about how really internet works. But my main concern is probably that most of the people probably don't know why do we need that internet works and what for. It should be a concern from a policy perspective. And then it allows me to bring for the other point. That's the reason that I have as a motivation to be working within the Colombian government. I'm not part of the Colombian government, but I have a very good relationship with them, and I've been working with them since almost 3 or 4 years, trying to get them more involved in all those things about internet. That's the reason why we hosted the ICANN meeting in 2010 in Colombia. Then we get the participation of a lot of officials from the ministry. The minister itself was attending the meeting. The president of Colombia sent a special speech, and they were informed about the meeting. Many people from the civil society in Colombia attend the meeting too. That was very good because they had the opportunity to establish contact and to have to begin to be part of a network of people who is talking about this governance interests in different topics, not just about domain names, but also about how internet could help in order to increase the development of the country, in order to increase the health, in order to increase the education level, in order to increase the standard of life of the communities. After that, when we heard about the initiative to have the School of Governance in Bogota, we were very involved on that. We worked a lot with the ministry and with Olga and Adrian, trying to give our 2 cents, trying to help in order to, and I guess we had a very good school there. The participation of all those guys from the different regions of Colombia was very important, because now they are responsible for the dissemination of the information about why TICs, which is the proposals to be responsible to TIC implementation in every region. And now I guess they are a little bit more informed about why to do and how to do it, and who called and where to look information in order to continue executing their responsibilities. Lastly, we organize and we sponsored and we host the preparatory meeting from Latin America and Caribbean for this IGF in Colombia last September. We work together with another organization of Colombia, which is Colnodo, who works since 1991, and topics about internet and for development. And finally, we get that the ministry got involved and with a very high compromise from themselves. They participate a lot in not only in the meeting, but in all the preparatory process. They participate in the definition of the agenda. They participate with founding the meeting too. And that was good, because now we had more people within the ministry which knows what is this, what are the topics that has been discussing here. Because in preparation for the meeting, we had worked by almost 3 months, having at least 2 meetings every week with different sectors, and all those meetings was with the participation of officials of the ministry and of telecommunication ministry, but we also invite and they participate some other officials from the Colombian government. That was really nice. And I guess that we got included probably more than 120 people from different sides of the Colombian government, that they now know about what are we talking about here, what are happening here. Some of them probably are following us by streaming. Some of them are following the conclusions that could be held. No, we are going to have conclusions, but they're going to read about the memories of this process. But one thing we can be sure, they are aware that this meeting is happening. I'm concerned, as Pedro is concerned, that they are not participating here, of course, because after all these efforts, the logical conclusions is that they should be here. But unfortunately, we are not part of the international agenda, public agenda. We are not part of the, and I said we, it's internet-related topics. It's not defined as part of the public agenda for our countries. That's one huge problem, because it's even in Colombia, if some official from some ministry want to attend some international meeting, that meeting has to be scheduled within the international organizations where Colombia is an official member. If not, it's very difficult to them to participate on those meetings. In this case, it's more strange because this meeting is sponsored by United Nations, but even though for them was not very clear that they should be here, and they don't realize the importance to be here. Then, for conclusion, my experience is that the work need to be continued. We need to continue working in order to giving information, in order to giving information to more people and giving more information for the same people in order that they realize the importance to participate here. Because I really believe in the multi-stakeholder model. But this model only works if all the multi-stakeholders participate on it. Then the governments are one of them. Civil society are one of them. Commercial entities are one of them. But all of them have to participate. If we don't have the governments participating here, this is not a multi-stakeholder process. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eduardo. Okay, we have 10 minutes. We have 5 minutes for Gorka and 5 for Sarah. And is Gorka... Gorka, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great. Yes, we can hear you. So, Gorka, you and Sarah are our last panelists. Sorry for the inconveniences before. I don't know if you could follow the conversation. We would like to hear your experience as being a student in Meissen some years ago, and a faculty member in Latin America in Colombia. And how have you seen the process of these schools, and how you see as a student and as a faculty member, what's your experience? And then we will finish with Sarah, that she has been doing a research about this knowledge exchange experiences. So Gorka, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Olga. It's a pleasure to be part of your workshop, and I would like to congratulate Adrian and you both for this workshop. So, as you say, there has been two different participations. First, in 2010, I participated as a student in the summer school Internet Governance in Meissen, and then last year I was as a faculty in the South School on Internet Government. So both experience has been really interesting for me. First, on 2010, when I was a student in Meissen, I had to accommodate many of the concepts I learn and I teach, and I say that because I teach world politics and international relations in the University of the Basque Country. So we use concepts like balance of power, politics, power politics. Those concepts are not valid for how the things are going in internet governance. So first of all, I have to say that it was a bit a shock for me, learning and trying to learn those new concepts. Of course, I also had the possibility to take part in the IGF in Vilnius, and as you said, I was faculty on the South School. About my participation in Bogota this year, I have to say that both schools are different, of course, because the problems of Europe and the Latin America are different. But I think summer school, South School has one really important point, that is moving the school each year to different countries. That I think that is really important because it creates the engagement for different stakeholders. If we want to the multi-stakeholder model will work, we should to involve all the stakeholders, and that's I think what we're doing with engaging civil society, but also governments. In Bogota, it was really great. The session we joined with the people from the ministry and other politicians, but also high-level meetings with the ICT ministry, Eduardo Bolaños. So then what I could see is that there's really an engagement from the governments. They want to join on internet government issues. They want to learn what's the multi-stakeholder, what's internet governance. So I think that the South School on Internet Governance should continue with this process, engaging different governments in each country. What is done, and you share one thing that is really important. You share the same language, that is the Spanish, and the Spanish language is the most spoken in Latin America, as much as English. Taking account the Latin community in the United States, the re-elected President Obama gave the thanks to the Latin community for their support. So it's the second language that they're speaking, Spanish. So I think that should be really an important step to create a regional concern about internet governance issues. And I think that should be the way to engage governments, but also civil society on this really interesting model, that's multi-stakeholder model, Olga.
Thank you, Gorka. And we have a workshop about languages this afternoon that you will be joining us, I hope. Thank you very much for your comments. And I would like to give the floor to our last panelist. It's Sarah Clayton from University of Leeds. Sarah is a student. And her vision for me, it's very interesting because she's a student from a developed country, but she's interested in exchange of knowledge, and she has done a very interesting investigation about that. So, Sarah, after hearing all these comments and after your investigation, could you share with us, you're a young person, so you are the ones that have a lot of energy and naive, the parts of the naive ones, and you have a lot of energy. This is why I like to be a teacher, because I see all these young people, they want to do so many things and learn, and I love that. This is the things I like most from teaching. So, and you have heard all the comments from the panelists, and you also have research about this. What's your impression about all these processes, and what could you share from your perspective, living in a developed economy, how you see these processes from the perspective of the participation of developed countries, on what you can share with us?
Hello everyone, can you all hear me? Okay. Yeah, thank you very much first of all for inviting me to this workshop. I'm Sarah Clayton. I've got a background in marketing and new media, and I've just graduated from a Master's in Cyber Law from the University of Leeds in the UK. Had the pleasure of interviewing Olga, among many other people, for my thesis, which focused on the possibility of achieving universal access to knowledge, taking into account intellectual property and human rights issues. I focused on all types of written material, not just academic material, because I didn't want to discriminate between types of readers, the general public or the academics, or various types of written material. So you could have magazines, newspapers, or trade books, academic books, or whatever. So yeah, access to knowledge is key in teaching any subject. It's also key in obviously teaching internet governance in developing countries. I considered developing countries in my thesis, and research revealed that obviously in a lot of the world, many people can't access knowledge because they don't have the internet, they don't have computers, they don't have electricity. I was told by one participant who resides in Fiji that lack of electricity has made internet penetration a massive challenge in the developing countries, and it's the sad reality of the developing world, and it's not often known. A lot of people would probably just think of Africa or, you know, these types of places that have that problem. So these issues need solving first, and the United Nations Millennium Development Goals are important in helping to achieve this, although I'm not sure how successful that's going to be in the time we have left. Anyway, there are many exciting initiatives that are going on around the world at the moment in providing access to knowledge of people that are able to access the internet. These initiatives include projects such as Knowledge Unlatched, Unglu.it, Project Gutenberg. Knowledge Unlatched is particularly interesting. That's knowledgeunlatched.org. It's run by a nice lady called Frances Pinter, who I interviewed. It's a novel idea where basically libraries wanting to buy a copy of a book from a publisher join together to equally contribute so that they cover the publisher's cost of publication. In return, the publisher must offer the book to all participating libraries on an open access basis, and then having covered their costs, and any sales the publisher then makes through their usual channels is just pure profit. And this business model only applies to academic books, and it has the potential to enable all academic libraries around the world to access research at an affordable price, whilst rewarding creators, covering publishing costs, and enabling wider knowledge dissemination. So everybody wins. Another project I'd like to tell you about is Brewster Kale's Digital Open Library. That's openlibrary.org. Brewster was also a participant in my thesis. It's a shame he isn't here because he is an internet visionary who probably would have a lot to say here at the IGF. Hard copy books have been donated or purchased and then scanned either by participating libraries in this project or members of the Internet Archive team, and then the Open Library houses all the ebooks, and anybody can access these books and borrow them for up to 2 weeks. It's very, very library-like, and also as a user you can upload any books to the site too. And if there are complaints by rights holders, then the books are removed. But the Open Library has basically given the world a system for utilizing the internet in order to achieve worldwide access to knowledge, and it's a system that's not too dissimilar to how libraries have traditionally operated in the offline world. So anyway, in teaching internet governance in the developing world, I'd like to basically point everybody towards these access to knowledge projects. And support for learning about internet governance can be found through projects like these that make freely available books and papers about the subject. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sarah. We have any question from the audience that have been so patient in listening to all of us? No more questions? Okay. I think any other comments from the panel? Yeah, Bill, please.
One thing that struck me that Avri had said was about the importance of educating through metaphors and analogy. And if we have any time to, I didn't really look at the clock. Oh, I guess we're kind of over time, aren't we?
Yes.
All right. I won't belabor it, but I guess as a parting thought, the difference between understanding literally and understanding through analogies and metaphors has always been a very tricky area for us, right? Because senior people are often just not going to try and delve into the literal understanding of something, and they need to have things presented through analogy. But at the same time, you can't govern something accurately and well if you only understand it through, perforce, an incomplete analogy. Anyway, it's just something that we think about a lot in trying to do internet governance education, and it seems important to me.
Thank you, Bill. Any other comments? Yes. Question from a remote panel? from a remote participant?
There is another question from Isok Cameron from the hub, from the DACO Gabriel to Wolfgang and Olga. In your training programs, do you have a system for tracking students after the training to ensure that they impact on the environment?
That's a very good question, and we do have a web page. We do have a Facebook page and a Facebook group, and we try to trace them, and we try to know what they are doing. Many of the students in Latin America are much more involved now in all the processes, in ICANN, in IGF, and in local and regional activities. We are thinking about improving that, so we perhaps to know more what they are doing, how can they exchange their experience and share it with new participants. I think we are running out of time. If there are not any other comments, Avri? Yeah, please.
Just a quick comment both to that and to the other. One of the things that we have seen is a very large number of the students from both of the schools do end up participants in all of these governance things. So we see the students showing up on ICANN boards, on various organizations, at the IGF as speakers, and some even as the teachers. So even without active tracking, they're everywhere. In terms of teaching by metaphor, it's true. It's really just an entrance into giving you an ability to sort of delve deeper, and it does take sometimes several different approaches of metaphoric language to give people the clue that they need to be able to take the next steps down. But you're right. At a certain point, if you're going to do something actual, you need actual knowledge. Thanks.
Shiva.
Siva Subramanian from India. A quick question. In MISON and in South America, what is the profile of the participants? I mean, do we have participants at the level of a minister or a top-level officer who is in charge of internet policies? And do we have CEOs of companies that are dealing with internet taking part, or is it at a mid-level?
Well, we had not ministers. They don't have time to be 5 days in the school, and that's okay with that because they have a lot of responsibility. But the Minister of ICT came to give a special speech and a special class at the school in Colombia, for example. And the Vice Minister as well, she also gave a lecture. And they especially asked several members of the government from all the municipalities in Colombia to be the 5 days in the school. So the involvement of the government of Colombia was really very interesting because they thought that the program was important for them to learn about all these processes. In other schools, we had, yes, several people also from private companies, also in Colombia. The difference I see in between the students in MISON and in Latin America. In MISON, you have these students in Europe that they go from university directly to other postgraduate studies and sometimes to do PhDs. That in Latin America, you have to go to work to get your money. You didn't have time for that. It's very difficult that you do that. So I see that in Europe, there are many people, also from developing countries, living in Europe, say for Pakistan or India or other countries, that they go in a longer teaching program that makes them very specialized in some subjects, and that in Latin America you rarely see that. I mean, in Latin America you finish university and you go to work, and then afterwards perhaps you go into a postgraduate or a PhD program. Not everyone, but I'm talking in general. So I see that there is a difference in the profile of the students, but this is because of the how the economics work in each region. I don't know if I answered the question. We thank you. More questions? Here? More questions? Yeah.
Say something. Gorka, wanna say something?
Gorka, go ahead. Can we hear Gorka?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, you can hear me. Okay, so I want to link what you were saying, Olga. That's really, really interesting. It's what I saw in Bogota with the involvement of the government of Colombia. So I'm thinking more in regional level. That the work is doing the South School on Internet Governance is creating the consciousness about the Internet governance. So I think this is why this is really important. I'm thinking on Latin America's region and its participation in on Internet governance. That's got to be, and it's been a success in that way because they're creating that consciousness or concerns about Internet governance, and it has been really followed by Twitter and Facebook. I saw really a high-level participation on those social media tools. So that's what I just want to say. Thank you, Olga.
Thank you very much, Gorka. Thank you, everyone, for participating, and thank you for the company and for the good thoughts and ideas that we have shared. And see you around along the IGF days. Thank you.